Right, everyone. I've been waiting to review this episode for a while. Actually, not just this episode, but this show as a whole. Of course, not all the episodes are out yet, but whichever episodes have come out yet, which are episode 1 and 2, really wanted to review them. And now that the time has come, let's do this. Starting with episode 1. Of course, this video is just for episode 1, just to let you know. I'm not gonna combine these two episodes together because these two episodes have completely different stories, different characters. So that's gonna for episode 2 I'm gonna make another video, but then for this video let's focus on episode 1. So first of all, this episode was not bad at all for a first episode. It had a very strong hook, very interesting plot or interesting choice they had for this episode, which was the Captain America First Avenger movie. They used this plot of that movie for making this episode. And if you haven't okay, so actually this is going to be a spoiler, but in this episode, instead of Steve Rogers, they take the exact scene where Steve Rogers was being injected with a super soldier serum in Captain America the First Avenger. But this time, due to some unfortunate events, Peggy Carter had to step in to take the serum instead, because apparently Steve Rogers, so there's this explosion that took place just like it took place in the original scene in the First Avenger, but this time it was before Steve Rogers was going to get injected with a serum, not afterwards. And for that reason, Steve Rogers had to step out to make things right, to stop the guy who caused the explosion. And then what happens is that because he was very skinny, he couldn't run really fast and wasn't really strong, because this was pre serum. He got shot, and then he couldn't take the serum. That's why Peggy Carter had to step in to take the serum. And what we got was actually a pretty cool character as Captain America, and that was, instead of Captain America, it was Captain Carter, because it was Peggy Carter. And I think it was because she's British, they couldn't really call her Captain America. And even her suit was also, her suit had the British flag instead of the American flag, like Steve Rogers did, which is very interesting actually. And I have to say, the action scenes, she just killed it. Not just her as a character, but the people who made the scenes, like the director and the screen players, all those people, they did a great job showing the scenes of the action, showing the action scenes, and just the whole animation in general. The action scenes were just slick, to say the least, and really enjoyable. For example, especially those scenes where she would destroy the tanks, similar to how Steve Rogers did in Captain America the First Avenger. But here, Peggy Carter actually, she was much more agile, and I'm gonna have to say she was even stronger than when Steve Rogers initially got a serum, and I think many people would agree with me. And it was quite unfortunate for one thing, even though she was really that powerful, we couldn't really get to see a fight between her and Red Skull, because she got actually she actually had bigger fish, she had bigger fish to fry, because there's this new character that kills, who comes out through this portal, which Red Skull used, which Red Skull created using the Tesseract. And what happens? Those tentacles come out, and then they actually crush Red Skull. That way, Red Skull wasn't alive to fight against her. So instead, she had to fight against the character with the tentacles. And this time, she not only had to use a shield but also a sword, which is very interesting. So it's almost it kind of reminds me of those, I don't know how to say, but there's certain movie, for example Pirates of the Caribbean, I think, where Jack Sparrow fights with his sword against this tentacle character. But yeah, I think the more interesting action scenes would be the scenes where she was fighting against the soldiers and the tanks, more than her fighting with the character with the tentacles, with the sword and shield. But I think another thing that really kept me engaged throughout the whole episode were the overwhelming number of references made to the Marvel movies. And one particular example, and in fact this was probably my favorite reference from the movie, was where Bucky's about to fall off the train, and then she actually Captain Carter has to has to save him, and she actually succeeds in saving him, unlike in the first Avenger movie where Steve Rogers couldn't save him. And then Bucky makes a remark saying that she almost ripped off his arm, which is just as a reference to him being a Winter Soldier, because he as a Winter Soldier also lost his arm, and that's why his arm got replaced with a metal arm. So that was a very interesting reference. And finally, I would say the relationship between Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers wasn't so bad, even though like they were completely of the opposite sides, and really, like the opposite characters. Like unlike back in the first Avenger, Peggy Carter is really strong and really fast, and then like Steve Rogers on the other hand, he's still skinny like he was back in Captain America: The First Avenger before he became Captain America, and yet they could manage to have a very decent relationship. And I think they also were going to dance, but unfortunately, because Peggy Carter, she disappears through the portal, and then she comes back after many years, and like she realized that like Steve Rogers, I don't know, like he just like not, I think he's not. We don't really say whether he had died or not, but like it's been a very long time. She has come back, so she has the same. She faces the same kind of like fate where with Steve Rogers did, except Steve Rogers froze in the ice, and then like he comes back and everything has changed, and he couldn't really get a dance with Peggy Carter until a very long time, which was toward the end of Avengers Endgame. She also had a similar fate, but yeah, it was her instead of Steve Rogers who had to face that fate of not being able to dance with her significant other. But I'm gonna review the second episode too. I will let you know which episode I like better in the next episode, I think. And until next time, until then, I'll see you next time.